Well, we are ready now for the picks and bans of game number 2 of Dignitas versus Splyce. Hopefully we can see a better comp coming out now from Dignitas. Naja being the first ban there, and then Erling Shin coming out from Splyce.
Not changing anything quite yet. Game number 2 is mostly going to come down to the dual lane pressure, but right off the bat, there's the change we were all asking for, Lasbra.
Banning the Outplash, I think it's a wonderful ban. I think it's the best ban they can do because Outplash is so safe late game. It makes so hard for the jungler to get any picks when he's around.
But do they need to be safe right now, or do they need to be aggressive? And getting that Finn right now for Trixtank, we would imagine for Trixtank, looks like they are going for that aggression.
Best of 5 metas shift, and they shift fast, Kelly, because we're seeing Fenrir first pick. Outplash, finally Moswal is going to have to go for something else.
Whoa, Zeus, something that we were expecting out of Pretty Prime, but maybe going to be coming out now, and it is, he's locked in.
That's going to be a good god because it's a mobile heavy burst god that can peel for himself. Huge area of effect damage.
And he kind of does what Outplash did, except for the sustain. He does have that huge ultimate that just everyone's too afraid to jump into.
Yeah. The thing with Zeus, I feel like it's way easier to lock down for the jungler and stuff because Outplash is like really safe with ultimate, staying after he's dead. So like if you get the ultimate off, it's fine and you have to sustain after. But Zeus, if the jungler can get on him with the Fenrir as well, it should be easy kills on the Zeus, especially early game.
Yeah, no sustain, no real life for the Zeus. He's gonna need a lot of peels this game. Splyce gonna have to draft a more defensive idea, and that's why Ardio and the Geb is locked in.
Ooh, yeah, look at this. I love how they're responding to each other right now. This is what you want to see in picks and bans. This is really where the coaches come in.
So Obey has the strategy of feed the sweet, protect Pretty Prime, and this is going to be a protect Moswal strategy with this Geb Ardio selection.
Yeah, for sure. I like the Terra pick because Terra is really good into the immobile Zeus. Like you can always follow him, get your ultimate off, get some good damage. We saw like as Terra, you can literally one-shot the backline.
And with these 3 frontliners, I'm assuming this is going to go for Fenrir, Trixtank, probably Variety on the Terra. We saw Divios blinking in, being obnoxious. Now it's Variety's turn.
Now it's Variety's turn, and all the bans coming out except for one last one. We got Ram and Chiron banned out on Splyce's side. And Jibalanke, looks like both teams don't want to deal with the ADC they dealt with last game.
No, definitely not. We might even see a Hu Yi this game if we're looking for more area of effect damage.
Hu Yi.
Oh, okay.
We might see it, honestly. The Zeus paired up with the Suns. Achilles did a lot of work last game. I think it was the first time it was picked so far, and now it's the first time that it's banned.
So taking that away from Cyno, what now can Cyno go for?
Well, Erlang, Naja banned, no Achilles. It's hard to say, honestly. He's going to have to go for something a little bit more standard.
And Apollo with that global pressure, are we waiting on him for the late game to split push? What can Apollo offer, Lasbra?
Apollo is like very safe, he's split push, he got a global ultimate, it's really good for rotations, but also I feel like it's pretty safe into the Fenrir circuit because you have the mesmerize, you get physical protection, but also you're mesmerizing them for like a few seconds.
And the Mez is the great defensive tool to maybe disrupt Variety from blinking in, looking for his full combo, stops the brutalize, stops the Deathbane from the circuit.
Deg responding with Chernobog and Discordia, and Splyce finishing it off with a Wheelish.
Ooh, I like this pick. It's a hard counter towards the Fenrir Unchained, towards the Circuit ambush. Once they're up in the sky, they're going to get snatched back down.
Whew, man, this is looking exciting so far, and I love the fact that these teams aren't going for their comfort picks anymore. You know, we both heard the coaches out there being like, we have comfort picks, everyone's going to get what they want, but they're changing it up. There isn't just that one comp that they're going for.
If you're at this level, Kelly, everything is a comfort pick. It's just what you've displayed to the public at one point or another. Keep in mind that these 2 teams were boot camping for weeks before they got here.
Lasbra, seeing this comp from Dignitas, what are you hoping for in the early game?
I'm hoping to see a lot of action in the dual lane. They have the Fenrir Chernobog, it's pretty good. I think also like around mid game we get like Circuit Discordia plus having the Fenrir mid with the Chernobog ultimate. The one thing is Apollo can follow up. I don't know, like their Relix is probably going to control early game. It's really good into Fenrir and Circuit here.
I think this is evenly matched, Kelly, between the global pressure. Apollo's going to go in, but Chernobog is going to get there slightly faster.
So who do you give it to?
I gave it to Dignitas last game. They lost. Whatever team I say is going to lose, I'm going to give it to Splyce.
Okay.
I'm going to give it to Splyce as well. I really like that. I really expect. I counted to the 2 really strong picks there.
2-0 for Splyce at the Alienware Analyst desk. But everyone, let's head on back to our casters to see how they feel.
Thanks, Kelly. Great job on the desk. Again, as always, as we move into game number 2 here between Splyce and Dignitas. And Splyce coming with an entirely different look, a whole new roster this time around.
Oh, Finch, Splyce is a bunch of one-tricks. They can only play 5 gods each. I mean, it missed me with all that. This draft is fire. I mean,
It's
this
so
is,
good, isn't it?
This is so hot. It's the Geb solo from Divios again, which he played so well yesterday. This Awilix pick is art. I mean, it is flawless into this draft. The only concern I have is against Zyrhoes on this Discordia. If Cyno gets initiated on, that golden apple will give him a lot of problems. But outside of that, he can pull the Circuit, the Discordia, the Fenrir, and everybody else whenever Divios jumps in.
That's the jump from Trixtank, and Divios is here as well. This could be a problem already for Trixtank. Shockwave there, and they've got him locked down with no way to jump back out. First blood on the line, and CycloneSpin finds it for Splyce right out of the gate.
You fools, Dignitas.
Yeah.
You thought that Splyce just three-man duo lane for fun, that they didn't do it because they love doing it, and that they do it very well, and Trixtank just misses the jump. But to be honest with you, Finch, who cares if he hits it? He goes in too early. The variety just wasn't there. The walls were good to body block the auto attacks from Cyclone, but that is a disaster start for Dignitas, and less so about the golden experience and map pressure and all that they gave up. I think that really hurts them mentally.
I think so too, and that's why I was saying it's so important that they get the game 1 win. And we saw that from Dignitas. It wasn't a ton of pride, I would say, in those picks and bans. They were willing to ban out the stuff that Splyce plays well. But for Splyce to come back in with their B strat essentially and to hit you in the mouth right away, I agree, that's gotta hurt.
Dash in from Cyclone, double stun, but the beads are there from Arkkyl. Beats absolutely nothing on the back end of that. A Dignitas duo lane reeling right now, and that's the effect of playing against Aror and CycloneSpin. Sometimes you just get a little bit lost.
They absolutely can. Looks like Moswal and Cyno might be looking to go in for this red buff invade. They're certainly sticking around. We'll see if Dignitas recognize and walk in on the bait, but no, it looks like they'll instead go for those mid harpies.
Thought Cyno might be blinking in towards that mid lane, but his blink already down at this point. May have used it to up his clear speed. You'll see that a lot out of junglers, to blink towards blue so they can speed it up.
Still some aggression over in the dual lane between CycloneSpin and Aror, but they've got Trixtank and Arkkyl at least relatively pushed back for now. But now we can see Qvofred making his way to left side, but he just wants those back harpies. But let's go back and take a look really quick with that respawn first blood and see how they were able to grab it. It was so important that Divios was there early on and that the jump was already down from Trix.
The level 1 doesn't seem that sick out of Geb Apollo, but it really is, because Geb does a lot of damage with Shockwave, it's CC, and Aror is playing a god which just has more abilities than you do at that point. But again, it's just, the timing was the main problem there,
Yes.
Finch. It's just too early from Trixtank.
And he jumped in too early and got punished for it. Great body blocks from the team as well. In those early game fights, the extra autos from the Apollo hurts too when he's able to get Audacity up. That was about as well played from Splyce as you can ask. And now as their reward, they're gonna rotate over and grab these oracles. We know how well they can manufacture leads in duo, but to have one given to them really could spell problems.
Especially with a pick like Apollo that can really, if he gets a lead, Apollo still feels like one of the best hunters in the entire game. It's just sometimes he could struggle with getting that lead. Cyclone now has it. He got that first blood. He'll be able to get those stacks going from Divios very, very early.
Apollo still has Audacity, right? He still has the passive where he's able to get that free attack speed.
Yeah, that's the one. Yep.
Okay, cool.
He
So,
also
yeah.
has a global ultimate.
Oh, that's pretty good as well. And a Mez and a dash that knocks you up. Yeah, good. And really good damage on so
also,
beautiful.
his ultimate knocks you up as well. Don't
That's
forget,
right.
we do that
Apollo's
again.
still very, very good. And if you give him an early advantage, he can punish you as the Horrific comes out from Trix. But he's already been knocked
Crippled.
up. Featherstead as well. But Qvofred even better with the Cobra's Kiss. That's what saves the life of his support.
Qvo is so sick, man.
Isn't
That
he?
Cobra's Kiss saved his longtime teammate and friend Trixtank, because that cripple CC chain onto Fenrir is absolutely brutal. This Fenrir first pick, this is what happens, where a pick looks really, really good, and everyone goes, oh, we can just start first picking this, because no one can beat it. It's what's best right now. Let's pick Fenrir first pick and put it in the solo lane, or support rather. And then they pick RDO support, and you go, oh, that kind of stinks. I won't be able to do anything once she gets her cripple. But it's fine. I'll just go elsewhere. I'll hit the jungler a lot, and then they pick a Willix in the jungle, and that's a bummer. But at least I can go to solo lane, and they won't really be able to do a lot. And then it's a Geb, and you realize that maybe Fenrir first pick may not have been the call for you, because Splyce came in really, really prepared for this pick.
Especially into a team like this that that even if there was no Fenrir, would probably put a Geb over in the solo lane, right? I mean, it's just tough into this matchup in particular. And remember, Dignitas did everything right. It feels like on paper, they banned away the Outwash. They don't allow the Nalja to come through. But Moswal can very comfortably drop down and play this Zeus as well. Much like Prime, he's so comfortable in these immobile mages. And now with the Zeus, we'll see if he can get this done as well. But I expect he'll be very comfortable.
This this is what good teams do to you, though, Finch. It feels like you're back in middle school doing the impossible quiz. You ban the gods that they've been playing, and you're like, okay, we'll be fine. And then they come out with a whole new strategy that still feels like they can really make it work. And you're giving up meta gods or non-meta gods that you have no idea to play against. It's tough. It's very, very difficult.
Trixtank looking for Moswal, and this is good damage he's putting onto the Zeus, but detonate charge I think will return the favor quite nicely on the Trixtank and send him back the other direction. So he'll have to think about it as Apollo flies back in, because again, he can do this and look for the aggression actually in the dual lane.
And the only problem now for Cyclone is that he's out of mana. Didn't buy a mana pot to bring with him outside of the base. Maybe had pre-popped one in the fountain, which is something a lot of good Apollo players do in order to get their flight in. But instead of using that extra first blood gold and pressure that they've gotten in that dual lane to get the Divo stacks going early on, Cyclone instead decides to go for the Boots Rush, which is a much more aggressive route. This allows him to continue to fight very well around these purples and around these reds in order to try and get Splyce further and further ahead, more so than just that first blood bounty.
It already feels like Apollo has so many good tools in the boxing trade anyway, between the mez, between the dash, which can also kind of have that knockback on it as well. I mean, he's so difficult trying to box him against, even with Audacity. Now you give him those completed Warrior Tabi to work with as well, and it's going to be very difficult, I would say, for Arkkyl to try and hold off against him. He'll have to wait until he has enough, he can back and then ult back in and try and even out that power spike.
I love where Moswal is going from this position. He's got his little helmet working, and everyone knows how much I love that tiny little helmet because I think it's funny. It looks funny, but at the same time, I think it's very, very good up against this Fenrir in particular. A lot of that damage from him is coming off the initial leap in. Trixtank's going to be leveling that unbound and just get in there and deal a bunch of burst damage right away. Celestial Legion helmet will negate a lot of that.
Aror goes in aggressively, and Trixtank's the target. Trixtank removed. Moswal damage, and the Aror locked down just too much. And Splyce yet again find another kill.
Cyclone getting a little bit low here on this left-hand side, though. Arkkyl, remember, can reset those cooldowns with that Living Nightmare, so Cyclone knows that he can't take many more auto attacks if he wants to stay up in this lane.
Yeah, he's got to be careful, and we're seeing him giving him some respect. His Variety trying to bully out this Geb. This is another thing that's unfortunate. When Divios is able to get a free pass on this laning phase for the Geb is when the late game can feel impossible. But it's because Splyce are pulling the thread so much elsewhere. The dual lane's out of control. Moswal has too much damage. You can't let this Wheelish run rampant. Who has time to try and pick on a Geb?
Precisely. Cam Divios, be our guest. You won't own a left side jungle. Your dual lane will be down by 1 million.
Trixtank is pulling back in Aror, but Cyno responds by blinking in and preventing Qvofred from following up. What a great response from the Wheelish Cyno.
I love it. It's the small things like that that really make Splyce look like a world championship level team, and they really have so far today. Cyno doesn't do a whole lot there, but saves the support.
Arkkyl has come back in with the ultimate, has to dash into the wall to get away, and he will be able to just barely make it out, but now the purple buff invade can come out for Splyce. It looks like they're not going to find much more on the back end, but they've somehow turned what was initially an engagement by Trixtank into a buff invade.
And that's usually where this Fenrir is great, is that he picks up the support and brings him to his team and says, here you go, please kill him. But because of Cyno's blink, makes it very hard for that to actually work out for Team Dignitas. And check out the boot selection as Moswal gonna get Cobra's Kiss, full comboed by Qvofred. Auto attack isn't there, but the detonate! He's got him! That's the Zeus juice, baby! Moswal sits him down!
All right, you got me. Zeus is pretty cool.
He's the coolest character in the game, man. I love that.
Not a lot of other mid lane mages can get full kitted by a Circuit and just say, okay. And that's what you saw from the Zeus, right? He just turns around and blows him up, pulls down the trucker horn. 3 now on the board for Splyce. And what's really frustrating for Dig, I have to imagine, is that they're doing things mostly correctly in this game. That was a great attempt from Trixtank to try and find Aurora a minute ago. You do need your Circuit to try and blow up this Zeus, but none of it is working.
That is flawless there from Moswal, and knows that he's got his cooldowns up and ready, but that's where, as I said earlier, it looks to me like Dignitas isn't quite there ready. And this is the worry with this Dignitas team. They're super talented. They play the game incredibly well, but they've had their shortcomings on land, and it almost always revolves around Trix and Qvo and their decision-making and play in these moments. And Trix had one misplay earlier, now Qvo has his.
Well, let's take a look back at that replay one more time. I want to see Moswal get the big damage here on the Qvofred somehow and manage to turn things back around, because you really weren't expecting that one to be able to come back out. But that's what's so important. That's what Moswal is able to do for this team, it feels like, so well. And again, thanks to INAP for the instant replay on it. He's basically alone here. No one is coming to save him from Qvofred, but he just has too much damage.
Moswal waits too and is very, very patient with it. Doesn't try and wait it out and see what's going to happen. He waits until Qvo commits the full kit in order to try and get in there and use that lightning storm.
Very impressive from them, and so far nothing has worked for Dig. But even with nothing having worked, they're not too far behind in terms of gold. I want to take a look at the experience chart as well if we can, Doug. Thank you. Always right on time. You can see that Splyce really haven't put that much distance just yet between themselves and Dig. They've got to make sure they keep their mental state correct, because they're very much still in this.
But I just feel like Splyce has that extra. I wish there was a momentum chart that we could have, because it feels like it's all Splyce right now. But momentum chart swings faster than any other chart we have. So Dignitas is really one fight away from being able to get it back in their favor. But for the moment, it really feels like Splyce has that under lock.
You know, and we don't often have things like home field advantage, but it might feel like these NA teams kind of have that a little bit here, don't they? I don't know how much y'all can pick it up here from them, but every time any North American team's able to get something done, the crowd just erupts. A ton of fans here for Splyce, and I know Aror himself has a ton of fans here. He brought a whole bunch of his own crowd in as well, and they're big fans of what he's been able to do for this Splyce roster.
Yeah, Aror brought a full caravan here to Atlanta in order to cheer for Splyce. And a lot of Aror jerseys. I see some CycloneSpin jerseys in the crowd as well. Everyone on Splyce's side seems pretty pleased right now.
Yeah, and it's rival over there in Europe, but Splyce fans have been perhaps the most illogical to me up until now. They have not had a ton to cheer about, but they've been relentlessly in favor of this team. Every time I ask them, they're like, what about Splyce? Splyce is about to win. Well, this is what they saw ahead of everyone else, right? That this type of performance was there for this roster, and now Splyce are returning the favor to all their fans by showing up in a big way.
Another red buff invade being set up for by Team Splyce. They're looking at that red, and Aror is going to be the first one in on a Qvo. Qvo does secure the buff, but has to use the beads just to ambush.
Trixtank wants to go back in. He pulls back in Cyno, but that's the difference Divios can make. Immediately drops the Geb shield and gets them out. But now they have to find a way to disengage. Variety drops Earth and Fury on the right-hand side, so Moswal drops down the Lightning Storm, but it's Moswal who's in trouble. Zyrhoes has way too much damage.
Now Cyclone's going to go up across the sky because Arkkyl was on the way. Aror may have been left for dead, but no, Cyclone's back.
He finds a big knock-up right into the three-man mess.
No.
Not up against the wheel. Cyno pulls him right back down to the earth. And that's one more kill for Splyce. They make it 1-for-1.
Because no one from Dignitas got ulted this game. Everyone's like, oh, it's just a Willick. She's there for early game. No, you don't get to jump near her. That's kind of her thing. Immediate leap in, and Cyno goes, yeah, I'll help you with that. Come on, but you're not doing any damage. No stun for you. Gravity Surge, able to shut down that initiation. I love Cyclone going back in with that across the sky, where Aror looks like he's dead to rights, but Cyclone comes and plays support for his support.
I don't know how you can knock back 3 members and still mez all 3 of them at the same time, but I don't know. CycloneSpin was able to get it done. Apollo really is capable of having fights like this, but this is what I think could potentially be so dangerous for Dignitas. Every time it looks like they do the fight as correctly as you can, Splyce just are able to answer back. That was the right fight for them to take.
And really good fight by Variety as well. His ability to isolate Moswal on that right-hand side, and I think he killed him through a Geb shield too. Had help from Zyrhoes, but that Terra damage, you already have to respect it. Moswal's building physical damage, but isn't going to have anything really there in order to stop that Earth and Fury from really happening. So Variety's able to identify that and really isolate Moswal. But again, Moswal got his damage off. It really doesn't affect the fight that much. If Zeus gets Lightning Storm off, then he already did his job.
And I just got to see it one more time. Cyno able to find that big pull onto Trixtank to set everything up. The INAP instant replay coming through. I mean, this is everything right from them. It's all CycloneSpin that sets that up. But as soon as that Finra comes in, Cyno ready.
Perfect. That's how you play the Willicks. Patience around these characters. No need to jump in, wait for them. Just wait for them to come to you.
And Cyno playing it excellently. 1-0-2 now, level 12 out in front of the Circadian. One more time, it's Trixtank pulled in. Cyno, I mean, maybe they need a sign or something, but you just are not going to be able to jump in against the Awilish, and that has spelled the Gold Fury. But Qvofred has great positioning. He's on the backside.
Blink right onto Zyrhoes, though. Cyno looking for him.
Wow.
Cyno is going to find him 3 in a row for Splyce's jungler.
No time for that wraparound to ever come to fruition because Splyce just keeps surging forward, and they find Zyrhoes isolated, and yeah, come right back to the Gold Fury. Lead the Lambs to the slaughter because apparently Dignitas don't know how to slow this down. It's Gold Fury now on the menu for Splyce.
Variety does have that Blink, Earth, and Fury ready, but Moswal's got Lightning Storm.
Moswal could be the confirm here. Aror gonna lock him down. No way for him to blink in, and Splyce can take the Gold Fury. That was perfect zoning there by Aror, and Splyce have looked excellent. This is a team that everyone was saying you don't want to play up against when they've got this momentum on the big stage, and you're seeing why.
So you can't jump around Cyno. We learned that one. But you also can't be anywhere near Cyno and Divios, because that was just a knock-up straight into Gravity Surge and then a perfect CC chain to bring him down right after that. So now Dignitas is left with thinking, what do we do? What is the game plan? Because in my mind, you have to initiate if you're going to be able to beat this composition, but you've got a Geb shield to worry about. You've got Aror who can put you in combat very easily. And you can't use your leaps to initiate because that's initiation for Splyce.
It's very difficult to try and find a way to crack this code for Splyce, and I really do think that the cherry on top, I know the Awilish has been big and that was the last pick, but for me it was this Geb, because that's what shuts down so much of this. It's what keeps Moswal alive. It's what prevents Aror from being insta-killed by the Ragnarok from Trixtank, is being able to get that shield and get them back out. Divios' play on this, I know he's only got the 4 assists, but he's been critical so far.
He really has been. And this Geb is so critical to the whole way the composition works, not just in the offensive portion, but the defensive portion. RDO, very good at playing aggressive, maybe not so much whenever it comes to the peel. Geb is there for you in those instances.
That's about as much peel as you could want as Splyce are near the Pyromancer. They were lurking in the jungle for a moment to see if perhaps someone from Dignitas would be walking without a friend, but unable to find anyone, so instead they'll fall back for now, and Dignitas have a moment to breathe. But remember, despite all this momentum that's going in their favor, despite how much the crowd's behind them and how many kills they've gotten, Dignitas are still not that far behind. We're 16 minutes into the game. 6-1 does not tell this whole story. Experience is deadlocked. It's only about 1,300 gold. At any moment, a fight could swing this back in Dig's favor.
And that's with First Blood for Splyce. That's with Gold Fury going Splyce's way. There is definitely a lot that Dignitas has done. They've been on time for their buffs. They've been getting enemy buffs where they can.
Impressive.
It's been very good from Dignitas so far. But when these team fights break out, how are they going to be able to play it? Because Splyce's team fight so far has been great.
Arkkyl now is the one in trouble. He doesn't even make it into the wall, but he does make it up into the air. But now where can he come back down? So Qvofred trying to buy him a little bit of time. But Cyno has picked Arkkyl as his target. He jumps back in, can't lock him down. But they got one more guy who can go up into the air, and that's CycloneSpin.
How did Splyce just dominate that 2v2? Cyclone looking for even more!
Wow!
The crit! Underneath the tower, Cyclone with the double.
Letting him hear it, and now Trixtank could be in some trouble as well. He does have the dog form. He is going to bring Aror back into the tower, but now you're crippled, buddy, and nowhere for you to jump. The stun's there, too, and Aror puts him down with the claws.
Unbelievable. Unreal that Cyclone gets that crit. He has 1 Poison Star, Finch. He's got 1. Variety does manage to punish Aror for the dive, but my goodness, Splyce is running hot.
And this is what we're talking about when you mean momentum, when it feels like everything's kind of rolling your way right about now, and it feels like it is for Splyce. Cyno could very well be in trouble, but he jumps to avoid the apple. Cyno doing the mental damage as well as the damage on the battleground stun there, but Divios with the Geb shield to get him back out, and Cyno can wave a little bit as he makes his way out.
Love it. Splyce playing so clean at this point. Even gets a little speed buff invade in there, as if Qvo getting crit by the 20% Poison Star wasn't enough to lose your speed on top of that, man. That hurts.
Things are starting to now stack up a little bit in favor of Splyce, as that what was once merely an 1,800 gold lead has now started to balloon a bit up to about 3,000 in Splyce's favor. And this would have been hard for me to predict, I think, coming in. I knew that Splyce had a chance. I did not think that this was a hugely in Dignitas' favor, but they were the ones who I thought were certainly the favorites. But Splyce have just looked stronger front to back so far.
By the way, that feather step that Cyno did, over the Ragnarok. Are we going to talk about that? I mean, that was filthy.
We don't have time to talk about every amazing thing Cyno's
He
done.
broke Trixtank's ankles on Smite. Like, how does that even happen? That was insane. Gives himself the immunity frames, puts him over the top, gives him some safety. Beautiful by Cyno. He's playing out of his mind.
He absolutely is, and that's really going to start to spell some big issues for Dignitas if Cyno continues to play this well. They've got the double blink helping them out as well. Divios blinks back over the wall to get away. Variety is there for the lockdown, and Divios might be a bit alone, but they recognize they cannot kill this Geb despite their commitment, not with all the Splyce rotating in and Cyno zoning away Trix.
Trix doesn't have an option from here.
Oh, no.
Gravity Surge.
Oh, no.
Goodbye. That's a Willix versus Fenrir.
Unfortunate, and as you said, you can't jump out. I mean, there's no options available except to try and box, but you can't box a Wheelish. That's a tale as old as time, and that fight goes in favor of Splyce. Now, Moswal is low, but Zyrhoes can no longer keep up the chase, but there is some backup as the 1v1's happening in duo. No true 1v1s here as Cyno shows up as well. He goes into the wall. Arkkyl wants the trade, has to ult, but Feather Step puts him to the ground, anchors him down, and no way out.
Moswal getting very low. Geb Shield helping him out, but not
There
quite
it is.
enough. Variety's Earth and Fury's able to take care of him.
A little bit too much damage, no way to follow up. This is good from Dignitas to find some kind of answer back. It's 1-for-1 Arkkyl for Moswal so far.
Ooh.
A good blink does get Variety out of there narrowly as Aror takes some good poke in the middle lane.
Zero's doing good work, but that's a Gold Fury.
you're right.
Going the way of Splyce. That's zoning.
What was I thinking?
CycloneSpin. Cyclone has played so well during this entire LAN. I mean,
Yes.
you called it earlier. He used to be a liability in that lane.
I certainly thought
at
so,
the very
yeah.
beginning of the year, but he has really come into his own as an ADC and has really played like a premier, not just ADC, but player during this entire LAN.
And if you remember the AFK days, right? If you remember the envious days, it was so much that they played through CycloneSpin. It felt like Weekend would get him ahead very often, and then CycloneSpin would come over from the solo lane. And so you think, just put him in a carry role, right? And basically we'll get that, but even better. But for a while, they weren't getting it. It looked like maybe CycloneSpin couldn't make the transition. This now, I think, is what everyone was seeing ahead of this Splyce team, getting to the point where CycloneSpin could be this comfortable and make these types of plays.
Exactly, and it was a little bit of time. Now, you're still camping CycloneSpin. I mean, they are literally
right.
starting Divios in the lane to get him ahead. That is still the plan. You still camp CycloneSpin, you still win games, but it continues to work. It's moved now from the solo to the duo, and it's just been impressive to watch.
And now Splyce grouping up around the Pyromancer. Remember, they stole away the Gold Fury in that last fight, and now the Pyromancer too, and then they're going to weave that right into a fight. Variety, the early target. He's down to half HP, essentially for free. Splyce commit very little, and now they can fall back or choose to take the engagement. It's all up to them. A
Huge
big stun from Trixtank, but Ragnarok forced defensively.
Right away, he's out of there as soon as he can. Really good stun, but that's it.
Whoa.
Big blink cataclysm from Divios underneath the tower.
Of course he's not worried. Of course Divios is jumping in, but so is Qvofred. He finds Moswal. CycloneSpin answers back, and Zero's gonna have to wait in the grave. Another big stun, but Arkkyl gets pulled back in by Cyno, who's on a rampage.
Qvo getting low and just able to escape. Trix might not be quite as lucky.
Not at all. Another big stun coming out from Variety, but jumping in is Cyno yet again, and the Geb Shield's there to keep alive. Feather Step sends Variety back, but he dashes in, and Qvofred finds one more. Shut down coming out. Variety answers back on the Divios. Dignitas still have a heartbeat.
Splyce just a little bit too greedy underneath that tower. If they just sit tight and get that tier 1, they're in a much safer position, but they decide to dive and try and get those kills.
Very strong so far from Splyce, man. I'm loving what we're seeing from them, and I love the confidence. They're playing in rhythm. This is what it's like when you got your three-point shooter feeling himself, like when Klay Thompson's on a streak. Divios makes the call to blink in under the tier 1 and hit the 3-man cataclysm. That ends the fight right then and there. I mean, to be able to trust yourselves in this moment, in this big a stage, in front of all these people, when Divios makes the call, I've got the stun, everyone else from Splyce is right there.
But that being said, Dignitas got a lot back.
They
off
did,
of that
absolutely.
Fight. Now, that gold lead now only about 2.5K, where it looks like Splyce might be able to start really stringing together a lot of objectives.
In fact, it's Dignitas perhaps considering this Fire Giant. What a big call.
way.
And they're not going to stick on this. Instead, they're going to try and take down Aror, who's been a bit isolated, but Divios is on his way, and he's got a shield to provide. No, he goes right into the Cataclysm and stuns too. Knock up right into Moswal's damage. Lightning Storm there. But they can't find the kill. Somehow, Qvofred makes it out, but Fire Giant now a distant memory for the team of Dignitas. It's Splyce who's in control.
Every game, you look at Splyce and you go, oh, well, we can't give him that pick. Now it's Divios' Geb. Can't give them that. But are we going to give them Naja or Erlong or Opwa? I mean, I don't know. I am stumped on how to pick against Splyce. I truly am. This has been I don't know what to say anymore.
No.
What do you do against this team? Until someone shows me, I'm lost.
No, very difficult task. I mean, if you're Biggie up there, man, I trust you more than me on this one to try and come up with some kind of response, because the Splyce are looking so difficult here to try and solve at this point. But that is why I got to give so much credit to Dignitas. Everything is rolling Splyce's way right now. Everything that they try has succeeded, and yet Dignitas are still only down like 2,000 gold. They're keeping this game virtually dead, even against all odds. Even if they lose this game, that is very, very much impressive to me.
Dignitas needs to win this game, though, Finch. I really don't think you can go down too well against the Splyce team. I think they've got too much that is unrevealed, I just assume, because they're Splyce, and that's what I assume they're doing at this point. To go down 2-0, I think would be a death sentence. This is a must-win for Dignitas.
And especially not here, not in this environment, not at Dreamhack Atlanta, at HRX, where the whole crowd, it feels like, is behind Splyce right now. Every time they hit something, they're letting them hear it. You just can't afford to fall back, not up against this much energy right now in this arena. So Dignitas have got to find a way to quell their voices, and it looks like the fight is around the FG. Arkkyl has gone up into the air. Trixtank is the initial target, but he goes into Ragnarok. Shield is there waiting for him coming out from Divios, and that's going to stop the aggression.
That's 2 ults used by Dignitas, and they got nothing out of it whatsoever.
So instead, they have to fall back. Splyce very far beyond the Fire Giant pit at this point. They have forced Dignitas out, but they're not ready to fall back to it either. We've only crossed the 25-minute threshold in this game, but Splyce recognize they're really not that far ahead. They can't afford to just bully down the FG.
Now watch that left side. Arkkyl, I'm kind of surprised he didn't just wait it out. He could have split pushed a Phoenix potentially.
He knew that he didn't have the ultimate. He had to use it so early on. Perhaps he didn't think he had a way back in, but it's the Fire Giant that the rest of Splyce are considering. They drop it as Aror takes quite a bit of poke from Zyrhoes. Still very patient. Look where Qvofred is on the left-hand side. He's trying to see if Splyce will bite a little bit too much on the fight, and he can loop back in.
Good ward coverage from Dignitas as well. They're really getting excellent vision around this whole area to know exactly where Splyce is, so that Qvo can still play that aggressive around the back play style.
Looks like we're done with the Fire Giant for now, Ryan. Splyce has fallen back and instead gone back to farming. And again, credit to Dignitas. Somehow, even with committing those 2 ultimates, they've been able to convince Splyce that they can't afford to pull this Fire Giant just yet, because the game is so close. I mean, if Dignitas get the Fire Giant, not even win the fight, but just steal it, all of a sudden it is Dignitas now who's in the driver's seat as Gold Fury gets pulled.
Qvo local, Aror zoning him out. I don't think they're going to be able to get here and steal this. Gold Fury getting lower, and Splyce find their 3rd Gold Fury of the game.
And this one gets stolen away. Dignitas sleeping a little bit, not able to reset their defense in time for Gold Fury after all they committed to make sure the Fire Giant does not go down. Splyce now have Dignitas the ones looking around a bit to try and find some answers. What an impressive performance so far.
And a lot of this gold that Dignitas has earned to keep themselves close has been off of these towers. And Splyce has the opportunity, if they're able to win these team fights, just like they did in the last game.
That's a great point.
To get that gold back immediately. Look at all the towers that are down for Splyce on their side of the map, though. Dignitas has that left side Phoenix exposed. Mid tower is very low. Right side tier 1 is gone. So Dignitas, that's where they've been getting a lot of this gold, but it won't last if Splyce is able to win a fight.
That's right. That tower gold almost feels like a loan in some ways, right? Because eventually you have to pay it back when they come and take those towers down. But if you can avoid having to pay it off, right? If you can just avoid it and never let them come get your towers, then that's just a net gain that you'll be able to find on the map. But Dignitas would have a difficult time doing it up against Splyce, who have all the momentum right now. But things have slowed. This feels like a bit of a win for Dig. If Splyce aren't pulling the threads on the map and Dig is getting just time to farm, they're getting closer and closer to being able to keep up.
Still only 4K in the lead for Splyce, and they're in a good position, but it's not commanding quite yet. And now the experience that was very close is more or less irrelevant. Moswal still needs to hit level 20, but that's the only damage dealer on either side that is still sub 20.
CycloneSpin top damage too. He's had a great set, hasn't he? Just a huge impact on this Apollo pick. Who would have guessed it? As Pyromancer being looked at, and that's why you see Divios and Aror going in. They're zoning them away, and the objective all goes the way of Splyce.
Rory actually eats that apple. Cyclone does go up. Watch Arkkyl. He's on that left-hand side. He could get a Phoenix.
He absolutely could. He's split pushing to try and force them on the left-hand side. Remember, he still has his ultimate. He'll be able to make his way to the fight very, very quickly. And Dignitas, I think, recognizing they're on the retreat, are surging forward. All of Splyce want it back, but they're not going to give them the opportunity. And now Arkkyl is rejoining the fray. They want to roar.
Aror again, but still so tanky. Aror does end up going down to Arkkyl, but Cyno's right there.
Cyno is trying to find some kind of way to get some punishment back, but there's just no answer. Jumping in from Qvofred. Feather Step lets him immune the damage, but not enough. CycloneSpin finally gets the answer back. A rampage for the Hunter, but a huge fight from Dig. I love the way they played that.
Really, really smart. Using that global as soon as Divios shows up. Ultimate right away, just goes in. And that's the first time that actually pulling Aror into the teeth of your team has ended up good for Dignitas. Every other time Aror has survived, but finally there's enough damage on the board for Dignitas to get it done.
Well, the real pressure there was that Splyce wanted to back. They wanted to try and send multiple people to make sure there wasn't a way for Arkkyl to keep pushing. And because Splyce weren't set up, the Ragnarok was way stronger, and they're able to burn him very quickly. Now it's Dignitas who are looking for the pull onto the Fire Giant. It's at half HP, but they leash it for now. Divios stands tall, finds Cataclysm onto 2. CycloneSpin and Moswal are here, and Variety is gone. I promise he was there a moment ago, but deleted.
Hey, is percentage-based damage good?
It's pretty darn good, especially into tanky targets, yes.
Okay, in E-Staff, that's good against those as well, right?
It is very good, yes,
yeah.
yes.
Solo Geb, if you get to this point, is busted. I mean, the problem is you never get there, most of the time. Most of us never get there. Divios has gotten there every single time so far.
You'll take 35%?
I mean, I don't have a choice.
That's exactly right.
There's nothing I can do. What choice do I have?
And now it's Splyce considering the Fire Giant at this point, Ryan. They're being patient, though, waiting for now. Now they're ready to pull it. Moswal here, CycloneSpin is on his way. And you're right, no one from Dignitas is anywhere nearby, even in the neighborhood. And Splyce earned this off the back of their fight. A great response to Dignitas' aggression. And now the FG for Splyce. And remember, all that gold we were alluding to is certainly still there. Splyce can now go hunting and try and farm back up and get even.
Exactly. Dignitas say, we can defend. It's not that big of a deal. But I really think it is because of how much gold is still on the map for Splyce. And now they've got that momentum behind them as well.
You can hear it here, the Let's Go Splyce chants are starting to fill the arena. Everyone here have the hopes of Splyce on their back. They want North America to get this Game 2 victory, and Fire Giant could certainly be a way for them to get it done, Ryan. What an impressive performance it truly has been from this team, but they haven't gotten it done yet. Every step of the way, Dignitas has had the best response I think you can hope to have, and Splyce has still been able to win. They've got to find another way to break this base.
But that's the thing. It's the best response. They're always on the back foot. It's always been Splyce being the ones asking the questions, and Dignitas need to take a turn. They need to be the ones being the initiators, but from minute 1 of this game, with Trix dying, it meant that Splyce was in the driver's seat. And so it's going to be difficult for that to change hands at this point. I think that no matter the outcome of this game, Game 3, Dignitas has got to do a better job of being in the lead early on.
I mean, this is a classic from like fighting games, right? Where you give their turn essentially is so small, the window is so small that they don't even want to take it. You keep them pinned down. A lot of it is even your ethos, it feels like, right? Where you don't feel comfortable.
Dignitas the entire game is going, is that plus?
Yeah.
Is that safe on block?
Yeah, is that right? They're just in the corner holding down left, I guess, right? Just trying to block whatever they can. As now Splyce are pushing through. They've gotten all but one tower, and left side Phoenix now in trouble. Cyno has a wave in mid, and of course Splyce put their foot on the gas right away. Jumping in, Trixtank has Divios pulled back, but it's Zyrhoes who's in trouble. He has to leave the fight immediately.
Variety has that Earth and Fury, though. Big damage coming out of that Moswal ultimate, but Trixtank now isolated and put down by Cyno.
Left alone in the back line and absolutely gets burned. Left side Phoenix, though, is still standing, but Splyce have all day long. Another essentially 2 minutes on that Fire Giant buff for them to try and work with. It's going to be so difficult now. Down a man for Dignitas to try and defend this base.
so low as that left side Phoenix. A lot of ultimates still up too on each side. Qvo still has last breath, and Arkkyl can keep the chase going if it starts going Dignitas' way.
And you've already said it before, but this feels so much like a must-win for Dignitas. Winning 3 games in a row up against Splyce in this environment so difficult, and that's why Divios is barreling in with the rollout right into the back line, trying to get the knock up on the Zyrhoes and make them irrelevant in the fight. Left side Phoenix has already gone down. Arkkyl has to run into the wall just to find a way out. Qvofred has to dip as well, and the Phoenix goes down. Splyce break open the base.
Divios, just no respect at all. He just starts rolling at them. He walked up slowly and down smashed them with Cataclysm. It was telegraphed, and it just didn't matter. Zyrhoes has been on the run all set long, and Zyrhoes may be used to playing against Adapting and all these great players in Europe. There's something different about getting killed by Divios and Aror over and over over again. It just tanks in your face all the time. It's infuriating.
And I wonder if there's anything to that walk up, having like an extra, like you don't even expect it, right? He's walking at and you're like, is Blink back up? Is that what's happening? And no, it's not. I'm just rolling at you, my guy, and you got to try and find some kind of answer. Left side Phoenix now down. There is still the tier 2 and right, and the other 2 healthy Phoenixes for Dignitas to try and hang their hat on. But Splyce are making that harder and harder with each passing minute.
And it's not like it's support Geb where you can step in and take that rollout damage. Because he's level 20, and he's got E-Staff and Pen Boots and Voidstone. So it does a lot of damage at that point. The rollout, the maxed out rollout, it really does hit pretty hard.
Oh, and Fire Giant Pot too.
Oh yeah, it does. And maybe a Purple Pot thrown in there.
Yeah. It just gets worse and worse, I think. Trying to step in front of this damage. Yeah, 400 plus 50%. Not nice if you're on the side of Dignitas wanting to take that one. So Splyce have to slow down for a moment. 45 more seconds so that Fire Giant's back up, and this is Dignitas in triage mode. They've got to find some kind of way to keep these waves pushed up, to find what farm they can in the jungle. But even look at the map. There's sentry wards littering it on the side of Splyce. They've got tons of information about where Dignitas is.
And Arkkyl is the right one to send to do these split pushes.
Yes,
Divios having teleport up can easily end up standing right in front of this Chernobog and make Arkkyl basically useless in this lane. Divios, his teleport will take much longer to this fight, so maybe Dig can use that to their advantage.
And it's triple blinks from Splyce too, one on Cyno, Divios, and Aror. That many layers of initiation is so difficult to respond to. And I've never said this before, but Variety only has 1 Earth and Fury, man. It's like, where do you use it in the fight? I've never felt like Earth and Fury wasn't enough until you're up against this team of Splyce right now. They make it feel like it's so hard to pick your moments.
I don't know how Splyce simultaneously kill your backline and peel for theirs all at the same time, because they've got so many blinks, but they do it, and it's absolutely amazing to watch.
Well, now Fire Giant being pulled by Splyce. The pressure is on Dignitas trying to find their way in. Variety blinks, but Splyce confirmed the objective. Qvofred now in the back line. CycloneSpin is the target, but he's right up. No, he doesn't make it to the Chariot. Arkkyl takes him down. The Chariot crashes to the earth. Divios falls as well. A double kill for Arkkyl. Dignitas with a pulse are starting to put the hurting on the Splyce.
Zyrhoes giving Cyno the okie doke. Cyno finally finds him, but Arkkyl has already picked apart Splyce.
Now it's Qvofred who wants Cyno. He's on top of Suku, but it's going to be difficult to find his way out. He wants the turnaround kill, but now there's no way out. Jump in from Trixtank, and they find one more. Europe not going home yet, Splyce. You got to find something else.
This might be game here, Finch. I mean,
that
right side Phoenix is right there. Arkkyl with a beautiful fight on this Chernobog. Splyce just used too much on that Fire Giant when they needed to save something else for the fight.
Well, they're 23 seconds away from CycloneSpin being able to help, 30 away from Moswal, and Aror finds a big stun that keeps him alive, but now looking for the lockdown. They're just going to settle for the Phoenix on the right-hand side. 13 more seconds before CycloneSpin can come to help. It's just one bear, just one Aror to try and slow him down. Dignitas have 4 members here. Aror blinks in. He's looking for the stun on the backside, gets through the wall, but Dignitas want to take the end.
Arkkyl too low.
They can't do it.
Aror forces the entirety of Dignitas back.
Man, that is it. Somehow Splyce find a way to keep him back. Divios now back up as well. Get out of our house from Splyce as they send Dignitas running, and they want a little bit more. Aror wants to keep up the chase.
Divios has Blink coming up.
The root little land as well. Now Qvofred, no mana, no options, and no health either. Nowhere for him to go. They're going to go for Variety as well. Dignitas had a chance for the end, but not against Splyce.
Oh no, Finch. This might be the counter end coming from Splyce.
This is huge for him. The knockup comes out, and now Arkyl's down. Let him hear it in Atlanta, Georgia. Splyce gonna take down Dig. They got a chance. It's not done yet. There's still 3 up though on the order side.
And a big ult. Zyrhoes has got to find that ult.
Zyrhoes is the one with all the pressure there on him. Divios can tank up damage for days, but it's all 5 members of Splyce. The pressure now mounting for Dignitas. A miscalculation as Cataclysm lands on the Trixtank. No option there for him as he gets stunned out too. Cyno, too much damage. Zyrhoes goes down. Moswal finds variety. Lightning Storm.
That's
and
it.
game 2 going to Splyce.
Unreal.
I don't know how you do it.
Aror shuts the door.
How do you play against this, man?
Cyno and the rest of Splyce, man. Unbelievable game. Dignitas did almost everything right. They were that close. But a big play from Aror. And you know what it is?
Yeah.
It's this man's arrogance to blink into
blinked
4
it, yeah.
by himself. He nearly killed 2 people and is able to force Dignitas off the Titan. It's so fitting for Splyce, isn't it? In a weird, of course it's Aror RDO support, blinking in, 1v4, defends the Titan, and sets up for the end.
What an impressive win there for Splyce. And I love the idea from Dignitas to try and go in and find the end because they've had so many troubles. The only fight all game long that they've been able to win, but it just wasn't enough. I mean, look at my man, he's calm. He's ready for game 3. He wants to get back in. Aror saved Splyce's life and he's ready for more. I mean, what a big performance from him. And really everyone. Cyno was an absolute madman. If you thought you could ban Naja and Erlong Shen and make him irrelevant, well, you gotta find something else.
The Awilix was great. Splyce just, man, such a good team effort from them. It's all, they work so well together as a unit, and then they all make these individual little plays that make it happen. I mean, it's Cyclone finding that double underneath the tower that opens up the game for Splyce. It's Aror with the Titan defense. It's Divios with great shields and Cataclysms all game long. Good luck, Dig. You got to win 3 in a row.
Yeah, very difficult now. Dignitas will be playing for their life every single game from now on. Let's get it back over to the analysts. A lot there for them to try and break down. What is it Dignitas has got to do?
Thank you so much, Fenton. I mean, how can we even break down that game when so much happened in it? Dignitas, though, throughout the entire game, even the early mid when it looked like they were so far behind, were only 2K behind in gold. I don't think Dig, even though being 0-2 right now, is out.
I don't know, it's a hard thing to do, a reverse sweep, especially at the biggest stage. Dignitas had some signs of life, I think, by being able to chase out Splyce after the Fire Giant, but the overcommitment to try to go for the end, you can tell that was desperation mode. Dignitas got too ambitious.
Yeah, I think after such a game and like you're playing on behind the whole game, you see opportunity, which didn't quite work, but it's a hard decision to make in such a short amount of time.
Especially against an RDO that has a stun, a cripple to prevent a lot of damage coming from the circuit. A great defense allows CycloneSpin to respawn, the rest of Splyce to respawn, and find the kills for the end.
What was Dignitas thinking, though? I mean, even though it's 4v1, they only had around 17 seconds, I believe, on the next respawn timer, and they didn't personally have enough damage to really burst it down in time.
Just desperation. Too many towers were still standing for Splyce, increasing the protections, the health, and the damage of the Titan.
Yeah, and if they want to go for the Titan after the right Phoenix, they had to get the Asher kill. Asher was really low, but it didn't find the kill. After that, they just had to back out.
That was true. If they killed Aror on that Phoenix Siege, maybe they win within that 15 to 17 seconds.
Yeah.
Here we see Cyno right now, and I mean, we can't give Cyno Naja, we can't give him Achilles, now we can't give him a Wheelish.
The thing is, Splyce have too much brain power coming into this set. Up against Dignitas, it was a 3-on-3 in the duo lane. Divios makes the rotation more impactful, anticipates the jump from Trixtank. He dies right off the bat, getting slowed by Horrific Emblem. And it seems to me that Splyce were well prepared for this Fenrir first pick with the Willish and Geb combination.
Yeah, but also like with the circuit as well, it just makes the pick even better with the Wheelix and Geb.
That's very true.
There was a few team fights, though, where Dig responded really well. They were patient and definitely seemed to wait for the late game in there. There was a team fight in the 22-minute mark there where each team lost 3 players, but in that instance, where it's Splyce versus Dignitas, Splyce is ahead, you want those even team fights.
It's true, but the thing is, with those even trades, there was nothing that Dignitas can get objectively. All the Gold Furies, all the Fire Giants were going the way of the North American squad, and they just had all the momentum from the beginning.
You say that, but their goal difference wasn't that much. It seemed like Dignitas actually was doing a good job keeping up with their goals and their objectives.
Even though that is the case, it's all about mentality, right? Like, you can't keep allowing a team to always get these objectives. Game number 1, you definitely felt the difference of the goalie. Game number 2, not as much. And that man on your screen, Didn't play the outwash in this game as it was banned, but had a fantastic showing on the Zeus.
Oh man, that 1v1 against the Circuit.
The problem with that was, I believe that it was a level 7 Circuit. Qvofred got 2 ahead of himself, only with level 1 Mace.
Yeah, it's too aggressive, but it was really close as well.
It was close, don't get me wrong. He needed maybe 1-2 more basic attacks, but that's the power of a Zeus in the early game, especially when the Circuit doesn't have that much damage online.
Yeah. I think the main problem in this game is Dignitas have a hard time killing the front line, whereas Splyce have a Fed at the carry on the Apollo going to critic and easy kill the front line, and together with a Zeus, easy kill the front line here.
That Apollo pick from CycloneSpin, you could just tell that they're covering all their options here.
Yeah.
Really old school pick. The idea was to disrupt the Brutalize, disrupt the Circuit Deathbane, making sure the engage is not as fruitful, split push opportunities for him. That double kill that he had at the 17-minute mark in the duel lane, where it was him, also Cyno on the Willish, killing out Arkkyl, and then just diving the tier 1 tower for another kill.
Speaking of Arkkyl though, he played really well that game.
That split push from him as well. What CycloneSpin was able to do, Arkkyl was able to replicate that on the opposite side. Getting 2 towers was important to keep Dignitas in the game.
Dignitas actually had more towers down on Splyce's side than Splyce did at the 35-minute mark.
It was because of that split push, and speaking of that split push, it actually allowed an aggressive play from Dignitas where Divios had to back to defend, giving us small openings. Dignitas pushed forward, get a kill, but then Divios teleports back into that tier 2 tower.
Yeah, I mean, it is the call there behind. It is Splyce who wants to make the play, so Dignitas can do the split push, they can come with the Schöneberg ultimate, use the global ultimate really good.
But I do want to talk about the end of that game there where Splyce was going for the Fire Giant. They got it, but then 4-man kill there from Dignitas.
That was just impressive stuff. I think that there was just too many abilities used on the Fire Giant. They were a little bit clumped up for all the AoE damage. Variety goes in, and the important pick onto CycloneSpin opens the door for the rest of the place.
Yeah, I think that was the first death for CycloneSpin that entire game.
That's
the only
impressive.
kill. Yeah, Cyclone, everyone.
Yeah, that
Everyone
is.
played so
7,
well.
1, and 8.
So what do you do though? You said that a lot of the issue was the front lining, but Divios loves playing tanks in that solo role. How do you take away all these gods from them?
I don't necessarily think it's the guards. Like, I think Trixtank dying level 1, falls behind, doesn't get physical defense to level 17 mark. Eddie carry is fit, they have a Velix who can find the picks in Fenrir. It's just unlucky that Fenrir falls behind. There's not much to do there.
That's right. A Fenrir from behind is not a happy dog whatsoever, and Fenrir needs to get the momentum. Trixtank game 3 against Space Station Gaming. He goes aggressive at level 1. Splyce definitely did their homework, making sure that wasn't going to be a repeat performance.